There are two major events that will be tectonic for Tesla in the next few months. The first is the upcoming annual shareholder meeting where investors will vote on whether to move Tesla's state of incorporation to Texas and whether to ratify Elon Musk's 2018 compensation plan. This is critical to see what will happen and what will Elon decide. The second big event will not just be the robotaxi unveil on August 8th, but actually it'll be when the first automaker announces an FSD licensing with Tesla. Our guest today, Larry Goldberg, has done deep dives on both these topics, and he has a pretty bold prediction of what will happen with the licensing of FSD. Welcome, Larry. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Herbert.
Let's start with the court case. I think by all accounts, everybody understands that this is one of the most important events in Tesla's, current situation and future. You did a full deep dive on this. I encourage everybody to go to his account on X at Tesla Larry, and he's got it pretty close to the top. It might even be pinned, right? Or it's an article. It's an article that he wrote, very well researched. And he's talking about this, basically the shareholder lawsuit that has happened. And he's comparing it to what might happen with this old court case or this fictional court case. Tell us about why it's important for us to vote and what you're thinking might happen.
Well, Jarndyce versus Jarndyce is a Dickens court case in a Dickens novel. And it's about a court case that dragged on for years and years, 70 years, in fact, and finally ends when this great fortune that everybody's fighting over ends up being depleted in court expenses, in costs. And, the lawyers are fat and happy, the judges are fat and happy, all the clerks are fat and happy, but the beneficiaries or the potential beneficiaries get nothing. And so the court case ends with this destruction of this great wealth, but, the fattening of the legal system. We're in exactly that situation today in the state of Delaware. This court case was brought by, a shareholder of 9 shares, famously brought by a shareholder of 9 shares, and they're suing, for billions of dollars, damages that this shareholder is supposed to have had, and it represents the billions of dollars that all the shareholders of Tesla are supposed to have suffered in damages. So I go into great detail about the technical terms of from a lay position. I'm not a lawyer. And my understanding of it. And the most important thing I discover is that the situation in Delaware is not good. I really question the degree of fairness by which this case has been conducted. The judge in this case writes with great flourish. She writes her opinion with great flourish and a lot of, English curlicues. But the bottom line is she accepted almost verbatim the arguments from start to finish of the company's of the people suing the company. Now, Tesla have responded after the judgment and after the shareholder of 9 shares have asked for $6 billion in damages, which is to come out of our pockets because he says he saved the shareholders the umpteen tens of billions of dollars that they would have otherwise had to pay to Elon Musk. So it's apparent to me that this is going to be granted to them. The money's going to come out of our pockets, and we're still going to have to pay Elon. because we're committed to pay Elon. We voted to pay Elon. The court tells us we voted with insufficient knowledge of the close relationship between the directors and Elon, and by the poor methods of the board of directors in coming to this decision. Well, the truth is that's not exactly correct. There was so much publicity surrounding this case, and these facts were brought out again and again and again by all the pundits, because Tesla has got more critics than any company I know, and they're more vocal than any other critics of any other company I know. And they will pick on every single facet of criticism possible. And so we heard all of this. We heard it in great detail, and yet we still voted. 70% of us voted in favor of this, despite the fact that all the proxy advisors advised against it, that we had all of the analysts and the critics criticizing it. We voted for it, 70% of us, and that's excluding Elon and his brother vote. So what I did is I went into great detail about all the arguments that the court has made, and what I found is that it was a very well-structured judgment based upon everything that the people suing us or suing Tesla brought to the table. The judge accepted. I don't think the judge accepted a single argument of Tesla's. I think the judge accepted almost every point except those that were unnecessary because they won on their principal arguments. And the judge kind of agreed with virtually down the line everything they said. Now, Tesla have come back and said, look, we disagree with the judge, but we're going to correct it. Here are all the facts, exactly what the judge laid out. These are the facts that the judge has told us we did wrong. We've gone back, and here are all the steps we've taken, and we've appointed an independent person to look at, an independent member of our board who's absolutely independent, wasn't even there when the original pay package was put together. We've asked her to look at it and get some experts to help advise her, and she's done that. And what they're recommending is we put this case back to you with all that knowledge that you didn't have in the original decision. And Delaware law allows us to correct our error. So now we have the opportunity of going back and making that decision without Elon and his brother voting, and we can vote again. If we pass it, the question is what happens? And then we get into this John Dice versus John Dice. Is it another 5 years of litigation for them to decide whether to accept it? Is there another 5 years of uncertainty? And maybe another 10 years, because whatever is discovered then or whatever the court decides then, maybe there's another set of arguments. And another $6 billion is claimed by these people who have been so badly damaged. So a second leg of what this independent director did was look at the idea of moving Tesla, re-domesticating Tesla, from moving them from Delaware to the state of Texas, where they're at home, where their principal factory is, where their head office is, where their principal directors are. And the question is, what's Delaware going to do about that? And then I looked at the court and the composition of the court. Now, this judge is a brilliant writer. I mean, she should have been an English major. She should have been an English professor. Writes with great references to Shakespeare. She writes with great flourish. But down the line, she has held against Elon in this case and in a previous case involving Twitter and Elon's acquisition of Twitter. And I looked at her background. Well, she was a lawyer in Delaware. The state of Delaware has a governor who's a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Delaware is also Joe Biden's home state. Then I looked at this judge's donations. This judge, when she was a lawyer in the state of Delaware, made donations to a campaign by the current governor when he was campaigning for governorship. Having successfully been elected to the governorship, he then appoints this lady to the Delaware court. Having appointed her to the Delaware court, within 2 years, he appoints her as the chief judge of the Delaware court. And in that position, she takes over the case or the cases of Elon Musk. I will only remind everybody that Elon has had an incredible track record in legal cases for years and years and years, until this lady became chief judge of Delaware. It may be a coincidence. These things do happen. They do happen. And it may be a coincidence that she contributed to this governor's election campaign. And it may be a coincidence that this governor, is a Democratic senator from the state that the president of the United States, who is an implacable enemy of Elon. All of these things may be absolutely coincidental and fine, but when she is sitting in judgment of a case that involves the question of whether there's independence of the directors, and that independence is so important to this issue and it should be disclosed, what disclosure is she bound to? What is her responsibility in terms of disclosure and independence? That's
right,
all my question.
Yep.
So here endeth the lesson. I mean, I'm probably way out of my, area of competence. I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. I bubbled my way through business and through life. Who knows? It could have all been fine, and maybe it's all fine, and maybe, she's not, somehow influenced by all of this political stuff. Maybe, but my goodness, she has ruled on point after point after point.
Okay.
So it's very important that we all go and vote our conscience as to whether this was something that we promised Elon, this is something he earned, this is something that made us all extremely, extremely happy at the time it was happening and subsequent events. If you're not happy, vote against him. But this time, if, and I believe when, we achieve this, we get this vote passed by a very large margin. If the court then again interferes, then it's open season. And what I mean by open season it means that every single company registered in the state of Delaware needs to look very closely indeed,
This is
at
bigger
whether
than
they need
Tesla.
to be in Delaware or not.
Right. Okay. So Larry, great reminder. This is one of the biggest, most critical events that's happening. I think today, many people have already started to receive emails from your broker. You should go ahead and vote. And the two most important things you can vote on is the move of the state of incorporation to Texas, and the second one is re-ratify the 2018 comp plan for Elon. And so that's very important that every retailer does this. Go check out Larry's X account, and you can see that he's done a full deep dive on this whole analysis of what's happening, and he gives you kind of just the background that he gave you here too. And so this is critical. And like you're warning, this is either going to go on longer than we expect, or and very likely this is a case not only against Tesla, it's a case against this whole thing about making money and corporations, and this can impact many companies.
Every company domiciled in the state of Delaware needs to think very carefully about its situation and about being in a political environment where it may not be friendly.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next big topic here, which is this idea that that the other big event that's actually happening is not only the robo-taxi, but actually it's the licensing of FSDs. And so you had this great tweet that I really liked, which is you're suggesting that the Tesla FSD is going to become like the NACS standard, North American Charging Standard, where it's not going to be just North America. It's going to be a global standard, that you're expecting that there's going to be licensing of FSD, and then everybody else will fall. Warren Redlick sent this poll out. Which company makes the most sense as the first to license Tesla's FSD? 75% people think it's going to be Ford. I can't believe Volkswagen even made it there. BYD, Lucid, or I don't know why he chose Lucid versus Rivian and others. And Warren said, I disagree with this result. BYD makes far more electric vehicles than Ford, second largest EV maker in the world. It's already a Tesla partner. They sell the batteries to Tesla. Ford is backing off electric vehicles. Selling FSD to a gas car maker would go against accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. That makes sense. So he's thinking that BYD, and I think a lot of people's minds have been changed because of the China government welcoming Tesla's FSD. Now the Chinese automakers will come, and I think that when this is what you said, Warren is right. BYD is by far the most likely to first license it. The reality is every auto company with any sense would be jumping into the queue right now, absent their ability to compete in this market. And without a license for Tesla's FSD, that would be true for every auto company in the world. They face a very uncertain future in the world to come. I agree with you. So tell me more about what will happen. So it's not just like this, a tectonic event for Tesla in the next several months is the very first licensing, because there's a chance that when that happens, a lot of other automakers will come. And we're just talking about not just Tesla being able to do robotaxi. We're talking about Tesla doing robotaxi with many partners across the world globally. And this is how big of an opportunity this is for Tesla. Can you explain a little bit more of your thinking there?
It's very easy to imagine that when Tesla, when FSD reaches that level of autonomy, that every auto company is going to look at the absolute necessity of being able to match that capability, because that capability is going to be very powerful to the average car buyer and also to the value of the car. When we think about what Tesla has done in terms of the research, development, and the time, effort, and money they've poured into it, we can imagine that it would take any other car maker the better part of 5 years minimum, and at very least 3 to 4 years to achieve the same goal. Probably, in reality, that's what they'll think, but it'll probably take 7 to 10 years, just as it's taken Tesla. So, given that, what choice do they have in order to compete, in order for their cars to simply be able to be sold on the road?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a given that once somebody breaks through like that, it's like you either have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, the value of your vehicle goes down vis-a-vis the other vehicle. So it's a given. And BYD is in the ideal position to take advantage of it. Now, it's possible that they think they can solve it, and they may, for all I know, they may solve it. But I doubt whether it's going to happen in under 5 years. And, even if it happens in 3 years, the cost to them in those 3 years are going to be staggering, not in terms of their cost of development, but in terms of their lost sales and their lost initiatives. So I think that it's a given. It's kind of like the supercharging network. Once you've got the supercharging network, if you don't have it, you've got to have it in order to sell EVs. In fact, it's my theory that the reason that people are struggling so much to sell their EVs is because of the lack of charging network.
Now, that's why Ford decided to be the first, because they actually had the most. They were the second in the US, and they had like a couple 100,000 electric vehicles out there. So they were the ones already hearing it from their customers, how terrible the charging is. And they were forced to partner with Tesla. You and I, you did a deep dive on this. I want to remind people to go and find this interview that I did with Larry. I don't know when it was, 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. Yeah. And he talked about the partnerships or the supply chain partnerships that automakers have, and that he believes that Tesla will become a, instead of a tier 1, it's a tier 0.5 partner to automakers. This was when he was predicting back then that this is an example of a technology that Tesla's done, that they will be willing to license and partner with other car companies. That was such a great research, because you actually did come with research with slides and explanation of how many supply chain partners car companies have, what they do, and why it makes sense that Tesla will end up becoming not only a tier 1, you called it a tier 0.5.
Yeah.
And this concept of full self-driving, this concept of autonomy, isn't just a feature, right? It's not just, it's got automatic emergency braking. This is an existential threat to car makers. I love this comment somebody made. All the car makers out there, they're just car makers, but Tesla's the only automaker. Autonomous cars. And if you have an autonomous car or autonomous capable car, why would you buy a car that's not even autonomous capable? And so just by a company saying, hey, I'm going to partner with Tesla, and then they start outfitting the 8 video cameras, which many car companies don't even do yet, at least they're autonomous capable in the future. And so they need to get that going right away. So I do agree with you. I do think this is a much bigger deal than people are expecting. There's going to be 1 licensed partner, and then you'll see 2. And then you'll see many, because they need to get in line, because it's going to take.
Herbert, you only have to understand the difference in cost between the Tesla's sensor suite and computer suite compared to the sensor suite and computer suite that cars that do this, high definition mapping of roads and so on. It's staggering, the difference. Even with the reduction in cost of training and the reduction in cost of hardware and the reduction in cost of sensors, it's still like 20 times the cost of Tesla's cameras. And so, there's no future there for anybody that's not pursuing this road. Now, it could all fail if Tesla doesn't achieve autonomy. But it's become so clear in recent months that the breakthroughs that they've had are there. And so, what I said, 6 months ago, a year ago, I think is coming to pass. And the fact that they're negotiating with 1 company is so important, because maybe you remember what happened with maybe 2. You remember what happened with the charging network. One company broke through, and within months, everyone.
Everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's great. So these are the two very most important events that's going to happen to Tesla in the next several months. First, of course, the annual shareholder meeting. Appreciate you doing that deep dive. Go check out.
Go and vote.
Go and vote. You might be already received an email. I did, and I already voted. But from one of my brokers, and the other broker hasn't sent the email yet. So you just have to watch for those and call them up. You need to vote, and you can now vote today. Vote Tesla moving headquarters or moving state of incorporation to Texas and re-ratify his shareholder meeting. The other one is the not only robotaxi event August 8th, more importantly, it's going to be the first license because this is much bigger. Check out Larry's videos and interviews because unlike the other people I interviewed, Larry really does significant deep dive. He comes with research, and I love it when you do this. Check out his website. Thank you so much, Larry. Follow him.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.